I will tell you that doing business with a broker or anybody else, know me, like me, trust me, do business with me. It's no different. The broker wants to be able to narrow that list down to the individuals that can make a deal happen. This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odum and Steven Silverman.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odum, flying solo today. Just wanted to let you all know that I'm thinking about you. I've been out at ICSC and out to Denver and Europe over the last several weeks. Unfortunately, not really had a lot of time to dedicate to the podcast. We've had a lot going on, and it's been hard for us to keep up, frankly. Recently, besides my trip to Europe, which was a nice vacation, nice little break, we were at ICSC. We had the team out there, which is the International Council of Shopping Center meeting in Florida. And what that is essentially all the retailers and the retail investors and anybody who's involved with development, leasing, managing retail centers congregates there. And this is the one that's in Florida, which is one of the largest such meetings in the country. And we'll talk about that in a different episode. It was pretty interesting, but as we have stated before, the death of retail has been greatly exaggerated. We actually feel pretty bullish on the asset class, the retail asset class, particularly in neighborhood centers. And we definitely want to have a complete episode on that in the near future to get you updated on why we feel that is. But also happening inside of our business is ROI Commercial Property Brokerage, which is the brokerage that we have. Stephen also has Tampa Commercial Real Estate. We operate out of the same office together here. But ROI joined TCN Worldwide, which is one of the largest broker networks in the country. And the reason for that was the increase of coverage and access to deals. And, it's a really good opportunity for us because we've got over 200 offices around the world. It's very well distributed throughout the U.S. and a handful of overseas locations. So it really is going to increase the scope of what we're able to do. And we're pretty happy about being a part of that. But that was a reason for going out to Denver. And we've had a lot of ramp up period with them, frankly, and trying to get everything together. But we're pretty excited about what type of opportunity it's going to provide us and what it's going to mean for the future. So those have been some pretty big changes on our end and why we've might not have been able to dedicate as much time to the podcast as normally we would. But here we are and back at it. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this specifically, and it's just going to be me on the podcast today, and not have a guest. And the reason is that we again, when I was gone, I had another person ask about brokers returning their phone calls. So I'm going to talk a little bit about brokers and dealing with brokers. And I want you to understand this is not going to be an apology session for brokers because I have to deal with a lot of brokers myself that don't always act in a professional fashion. I think overwhelmingly most of the folks that are in the commercial real estate sector are pretty good. They're pretty professional and they get the job done. But there are those that are not very particularly responsive and there might be a reason for that. So I want to talk about that a little bit because ultimately lots of deals get done, whether you like it or not, with brokers. It's still the majority of transactions in the market are getting done with commercial brokers. And if you're relying solely on LoopNet or other listing services, you need to understand that you're getting deals that are picked over. Brokers typically will take their deals, that they get in terms of listings to their private clients, people that they know can execute a deal first. And by the time it hits LoopNet, it's usually been picked over by their client base, and it's frequently not a great deal. I'm not saying you can't find deals on LoopNet or on MLS, because you most certainly can, but I'm just letting you know that if you, for example, get a Marcus and Millichap listing, the chance there's probably 30,000 investors worldwide that have already looked at that and declined it. So you need to know what you're looking at when you're looking at a LoopNet deal, and what you're looking at. Would it be a Crexy deal, or it might be on Craigslist or whatever. If a broker's putting it out there, he's already been shopping that to his clients and the firm's clients before it hits that LoopNet listing. I know when we get folks that call in, they're usually very indignant that brokers aren't responsive to them. And this is the question that we have. Why is that? The brokers aren't responsive to them, and they're not getting looks at these deals. Really, the question is, when you're saying the broker's not returning my call, what you're asking for is, how do I get the deals? How do I get access to deals? And that's really it in a nutshell. If you're an apartment broker and you throw something on LoopNet, by the time it hits LoopNet, you're probably going to receive, if it's a reasonable deal, somewhere between 5 and 20 telephone calls the first day that it goes out there. Those are not the individuals that are calling, mostly are not qualified individuals. And so there's no way that a broker can call back and have conversations with 5 to 10 people, 15 people, or whatever it might be that they're receiving the solicitations on or requests for information on. There's no way that they can screen through all those people. So there's a constant, for the average deal on, particularly on apartment, there's a process of trying to figure out which are the folks that are going to be most likely to be able to transact. And the reality is, you're going to want to get the inside stuff, rather than being that person that's fighting with the other 20 people that have called in when a deal first goes live. When buyers ask me why they don't get the attention, or how can they get on the list, the inside list, they become very indignant. And they say, I just don't understand. I can do this. And why can't I get what I want? And you need to understand, particularly in this market, that the bottleneck is in the deal, not in the buyer. What the broker is trying to do is trying to figure out the most efficient way for them to filter through the potential buyers and figure out which ones that can transact. And brokers only get paid when the deal gets done. So they don't want to educate investors. They don't want to spend a lot of time explaining to an inexperienced buyer how to make this transaction. They don't want to be giving seminars. They don't really have time for that. They want to be able to just and let me back up just a little bit. And we had folks that will, talk about 1031, and they'll want the broker to spend half an hour to explain to them 1031. The broker does not have time for that. So, you need to be considerate of the agent's time, because what they want to deal with is those individuals that can transact. And if they've been in the business for more than 3 or 4 years, chances are they've have people they know that can perform. And those are the people that are going to be getting the first look. So you need to be positioning yourself when you're having those conversations with the brokers that you are capable of being one of those people that can transact. So first, I would start, if you're going into a market, say, let's look at LoopNet and MLS and see who the dominant brokers in the market, because there's a lot of agents that say they do multifamily, a lot of agents that say they do retail, but they don't really. And they might have 1 or 2 transactions a year, and you don't want to be investing a lot of time in those folks either, because your time is valuable as well. So what you want to do is go on to LoopNet, go on to MLS, go on to the listing services. Crexy is another one that's becoming very popular recently, and figure out who are the dominant brokers. And I would focus on them first, to try to solicit them on particular deals and try to get your name into that pool of individuals that they have that they feel confident will be able to transact. And so after you've had an opportunity, pick up the phone, call them, leave them a message, send them an email, and let them know that you're looking. Legitimate investors are focused. So don't say you're going to look at any deal, anywhere, any asset class, any size. That's not giving the broker confidence that you know what you're doing. Legitimate investors will say, I'm looking for a 10-unit apartment complex in Pinellas County within bike riding distance of downtown St. Pete. That's where you start. You let them know that's what the deal is. And you tell them, and you want to, as soon as you get the opportunity to have the conversation with them, sometimes it's by email, sometimes you're just trying to get the conversation started. You want to let them know that you have your financing lined up and be prepared to show your proof of funds. Now, we get a number of telephone calls from buying groups. In other words, there's 3 or 4 people that have put together a team of folks. They want to buy properties. They want to invest. Word to the wise, buying groups make brokers very nervous because buying groups, particularly if not transacted deals before, can rarely agree on anything. And so what ends up happening is that the individual who's heading up the buying group and talking with the broker can be very rational, but there's 4 or 5 people behind him or her who might not be so rational. And so if you've not transacted deals and you're operating as a buyer group, you want to make sure that you're conveying the information that we know what we're doing. We've agreed amongst ourselves that we're going to transact inside of these criteria. The criteria needs to be reasonable. In other words, if you're looking for, and I'm talking about the St. Pete market because it's something we've transacted a lot of apartment deals in. If you're looking for an apartment deal within 2 miles of downtown St. Pete, and it needs to be at least 100 units, and you want to be able to buy it at 80 cents on the dollar, that's not reasonable. That's not a reasonable assumption because it's a very hot market that there's very few deals that are over 100 units, very few, not very many of them that are transacting. And it does not give the broker confidence that you have an understanding of the market and that you know what you can do and you can execute. So you want to make sure that you have a decent idea of what is happening in the market, that what the size of deals that are transacting. And St. Pete is Pinellas County is one of the largest apartment markets in the entire, in terms of deals, number of actual units, not units, but actual units too, but also the actual properties. Most of them tend to have been built. They're older units, more than 50 years old, and they are less than 30 units, less than 40 units. That is the St. Pete market because it was serving a different animal than what, for example, Hillsborough and also what Orlando and some of the newer markets. The newer markets are more geared towards the institutional apartment complexes, and they tend to be over 200 units. Pinellas, no. Pinellas is the largest, most densely populated county in the state of Florida, and it also has an enormous number of older apartment units. That's somewhere between 4 to 25, 30 units. That tends to be the bulk of what's happening in Pinellas County. So make sure that you understand the market, you convey that, and that you also are bringing a degree of reason and knowledge of what you're looking at, because I don't want to apologize or I guess I am excusing away brokers' behavior, but if they don't feel like you have a clue of a grasp of what's going on, they don't have confidence you're going to be able to transact. If you're leaving a message for the broker, tell them specifically why and why you're a good candidate. In other words, the conversation should go somewhere along the lines of, John Broker, this is Sally Smith. We are looking for apartment deals in St. Pete or within a mile of St. Pete that are somewhere between $85,000 a unit and $100,000 a unit. We will do a deal up to the size of $1 million. I'm interested. We're ready. I'm interested in speaking with you. We're ready to transact. I'd like to be able to share our message, our deal flow with you so you understand that we're capable of executing. Again, I want to reiterate here, because a broker only gets paid when a deal gets done. And what's worse than having to educate an investor is to actually have an investor that's ill qualified to make a transaction, but ties up a listing for 30, 60, 90 days in a due diligence period and doesn't or can't bring it home to a finish. So there's going to be the broker is constantly going through this screening process in his mind or her mind of, is this person capable of transacting? Or is this person have a clue? They have a realistic view of the market. Will they see a deal done? And they're going to be looking for those hints that you are not secure in where you're going. And if that's the case, you're going to get moved down the list. If the broker feels that you are not capable of transacting, you don't understand the market, it's a pretty good chance that they're not going to have you near the top of the list. Remember, if the broker's been engaged in the market, the particular asset class for more than 3 or 4 or 5 years, chances are they've got a pretty good list of people they already know can transact. And so you're competing against those people for these assets. And that's something you need to understand when you're having a conversation. Put together a list of assets, or this is just another example that you can provide as an example for a broker. Show them the deals that you've looked at, and show them why you would think this is a good deal or why you think this is a bad deal. That helps from a visual standpoint. It could be live deals, or maybe it doesn't have to be, but it shows that you've gone through the process of, hey, this looks like a good deal. Take it off of LoopNet, pull it down, and see that, okay, well, we missed this because it transacted, but this is why we would have done this deal. And if you've got access to the county records and you can see where it was actually transacted at, what the price that was actually transacted at, you can explain your thought process to the broker. We would have done this deal. It was within our criteria. It was here. Unfortunately, we were too late to the game, or, it was by the time we contacted the agent, it was already in contract, whatever the reason is. But you want to be able to give the broker a clue of where you are and where you stand so they can understand your underwriting process in terms of how you make a decision or don't make a decision. You don't want your time wasted either, because everybody is in a game of time. And you've got limited time in the day. The broker has limited time in the day. And so you want to only be contacted on those deals that you are capable of transacting on. And you also, the more you're telling a broker, no, the more you get moved down the list. So you want to be very clear with them about what you're willing to look at and not, and then try to get some feedback from them. If that's reasonable, and listen to what they have to say. And then follow up. You don't have to call them every day, because deals, again, the bottleneck for agents are deals, the actual properties, not the buyers. They already have a buyer list. They can probably move an apartment complex pretty quickly if they want to do so. You just want to be one of those people that are contacted first, before the masses get a hold of it. And so you want to be efficient. You want to be focused. You want to properly convey to the agent that you are legit. You want to make sure they understand how the deal is going to get financed, and maybe provide them with a proof of funds. You want to try to provide the agent with information that would show what type of deal you're willing to transact. And this can be live deals, or this can be examples of what a deal that was live on the market and why you would or would not have done it. But most of all, you're wanting to get all these things convey to the broker, and with the confidence that you're capable of closing. And that's a surefire way of being able to get on the list. I will tell you that doing business with a broker or anybody else, know me, like me, trust me, do business with me, it's no different. There's no entitlement from the buy-sell broker side of a business to that, I'm entitled to get these. No, the broker wants to be able to know that whoever they're doing business with, that they're not going to get embarrassed to the seller if you can't transact. They don't want to invest a lot of time with somebody they have to educate. They want to be able to narrow that list down, winnow it down to the individuals that can make a deal happen. And when you enter into a deal, you also want to understand that if you can't close that deal, you're going to get moved down the list. That's the reality. And sometimes this happens. There's nothing you can do about it, particularly if you're a new investor. You start learning things into the due diligence period when you enter into a contract that you didn't know before. You don't know what you don't know. So when you get into it, you start learning some things. Oh gosh, this is not really what I thought. And you have to either retrade it or you back out of the transaction. But you have to understand that there's probably going to be a cost to that, and that you're probably going to kill your relationship with the broker, because remember that he or she is only gets paid when the deal gets done, and they don't want a deal tied up for 2 months to learn that, oh, we just realized that we put in too much of an offer on this. And even though we knew the air conditioning units to be replaced, we didn't understand the cost of that, or we didn't know the windows needed to be replaced, even though you could clearly see it from the street that the windows were in bad shape. And we didn't know what that cost was going to be to do that. It happens, right? But you also have to understand that the chances are you're either going to get moved down the list or moved off the list from a broker if that happens, because the broker may have conveyed that to you, or maybe the broker thought that was plainly obvious when you went to the building that there was some deferred maintenance that had to be taken care of. And if you didn't know that and you're bringing it up to them now, it's going to cause you to lose some credibility. It happens. Now, don't kill yourself over this stuff, but you just have to understand that there are ramifications to all this and the mentality of the agent. So again, just in summary, guys, just be focused, be efficient, utilize your time in the best strategy in the best way you can. Also be respectful of the agent's time. And you want to get moved on to that list of people that he can trust to bring a deal to and transact in a timely, efficient manner. And so this is how you have to represent yourself. So all you folks that are saying, hey, the broker doesn't return my call, I get you. Not apologizing for them. I'm just trying to explain the mentality of many of the agents and how they try to make a deal happen. So I hope this was helpful, to you. And as always, if you've got any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to hit our website at www.investfloridashow.com and let us know. Let us hear about it. We definitely like to hear from you guys. It gives us the feedback that we need to be able to efficiently run the show. And one other thing, if you have not done so already, please go to give us a review on Google Play Store, on Apple iTunes. It helps us with guests, and we've got a lengthy list of guests. Usually takes us about 5 hits to get one person on the show. And so your comments help us to show to the potential guests that the time that they're going to spend with us in an interview is going to be worthwhile for them. Every guest that comes on the show does it for a reason. There's a business reason for them to do it. It's not out of the goodness of their heart. They're either trying to find deals or connections or whatever their motivation is. Maybe they're just trying to get marketing and branding out, but they want to make sure that it's an efficient use of their time. And so when you guys are leaving messages for us on the iTunes or the Google Play Store, it's something that these guests will look at and review and take into consideration when they're determining where they're going to invest their valuable time. So the guys that have already done that, we certainly appreciate that. And the ones that haven't, it would be greatly appreciated. We don't do this show for money. We don't advertise purposely. We want this show to be a show that is giving you quick hitting information and can help you advance your real estate career. So that's really the only thing we're asking in return from you guys, is just help us promote it. And it will also help you guys for us to get guests and a continued flow of information that hopefully helps you to advance your real estate careers. Guys, as always, we appreciate the time that you spend with us each and every episode. And until next time, hasta la vista.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odum and Steven Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show.